Matthews with another podcast, a great interview headed for you. Man, I've been waiting for this all week. My man was so excited. He got on early, 3 hours early. So without further ado, I want to announce my guy, Ash Noor. Can you go and tell us about yourself, brother? Talk to the people.
Hey man, thank you so much for having me. This is so exciting. That you're actually my very first InfoSec podcast to be in.
Hey,
So I'm super excited. This is really, really cool. Well, yeah, thanks so much for finding me and inviting me on the podcast. I'm really looking forward to it. This is gonna be fun. It's gonna be
nah,
fun. Yeah,
man, I
man.
love it. So let's start off. So let's tell the people what you do. Like what is your
Okay.
job in cybersecurity?
Um, I have been lucky enough to become a pen tester. We do mainly web app pen testing. Every now and then we may get a network one, but our team's main focus is to do web applications. And we are a contractor for the government. So a lot of times, or not a lot of times, but almost all the time,
All the time.
all the time. The websites that we end up working on are basically related to the government. So we have certain restrictions that we deal with for that. But yeah, but it's all mainly web applications at this point.
Got you. And when you say so, you're pen testing web applications, just for the people that's not in this industry, or they might have
Yes.
some questions about it. So, what does that actually entail when you say I'm pen testing web applications?
That's a great question, actually. I didn't even think about that. So basically, what that means is any website that's related to the specific part of the government that I'm working in, um, if it deals with people having to, for example, to go in and put in information like you would have to put in your name or an address or any kind of interaction of that kind. Our team's job is to go to that site and to see if somebody who is malicious, if they would be able to extract or get information out of that website or out of that server that they're not supposed to. And we tend to do it in two different ways, where there are some sites where they're public, so anybody can go to. Then there are sites that you have to be part of the network of the actual company.
Hmm.
So for that is considered more of like an internal threat. So our team would get a range of different accessibilities. So for example, since I'm a new guy, uh, most of the time the accounts that I would have little to almost no authority. So I should only be able to maybe just see something, but I
Mhm.
shouldn't be able to like write something or download something. So my job as a tester is to see, okay, what can I do with my account that I'm not supposed to be able to do?
So essentially, like, would your goal be, since you're only supposed to be able to see, like
Mhm.
for your specific task, would it be okay? Let's see if I can write something. Let's see if I can download something.
Exactly. Yep. So for and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It depends on the kind of test that you are. But just that's like a simple example. There are some sites where they just give us the website and no accounts or anything, and they're like, have at it.
Got so what's the difference between that? I don't, as I've been to school for it, so I know we have the black, white, and gray testing.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Basically, well, I'll do it in reverse because that'll be easier. So a white box test is when they give you all the information. They're like, all right, so here's our website. Here are some accounts. Some are admin accounts, some are non-admin accounts. And basically to kind of test it that way to see if you're able to do something that you're not supposed to be able to do with some of the non-admin ones. Because of course, an admin account you can do a lot of things.
Everything.
And a lot of times we would ask for an admin account just so that for testing purpose, if a person is able to do something, we would use the admin account to kind of verify that, yes, that did happen or that didn't happen. The one in the middle, which is a gray box test, would be somewhere in the middle where they would give you some information, but not all of it. So
Hmm.
for example, they would give you maybe one one or two IP addresses, but maybe they wouldn't tell you what the actual application does or what certain accounts are. So it'd be like basically in the gray area. They would give you just some information. The black box test, that's the one where you get nothing.
Nothing.
Like nothing. So like this is they want it to be kind of almost as as close to the real thing as far as external attack as possible.
Got you. So when you I'm glad you said that. So you said the black box is like an external. So would you say the white test, since you have all that information, would that almost be like an inside threat?
Yes, because since we already have accounts to be able to log into the account in the first place, then that would be more of an insider threat because we already have access to the network. Because a lot of people don't think about that. A lot of people just think that as far as I don't like to use the term as far as people hacking because it's been getting such a bad rap, this word. And it's really not. Hacking is actually really cool. But a lot of people don't think of threats as being internal. They only think of it as somebody malicious on the outside trying to break into your system and do bad things. But they never think, well, what if somebody is already inside and they get begrudged about something or they're about to get fired and they're not happy about it and they have all this access? Well, I mean, they can do some stuff too.
That's a lot of stuff that you can do. Like you got keys to the castle.
Yeah, exactly. So not a lot of people think of attacks as being like that. A lot of the breaches and stuff like that happen, a lot of that happens sometimes accidentally, but from the inside. Like somebody gets a suspicious email and whatnot, but somebody from the inside the network clicks on something, and that's what starts the chain. So a lot of people don't think about that. They just think of the movie Hackers, and that everyone's just from the outside in a booth somewhere.
Yeah, and with a hoodie on. Just
yeah, I have my hoodie, so I'm representing, man.
Hey, represent. You know what? When I got into cyber, that was one of the first things I did. I went and bought myself a hoodie just for the effect.
I know, but the crazy thing is that it actually comes in handy because I work in the basement and it gets really cold in here. So I'm like, I now know why we have hoodies. There's actually a reason for it.
Yeah. No, so man, we already touched on a lot of stuff. So I know I'm excited. I'm pretty sure everybody else, you didn't drop some gems, so they picked some stuff up from you.
I hope so. Thank you.
Like, you did say that you're kind of new to the position. So can you talk about your journey getting to where you are now?
Oh man, it's been a journey, that's for sure. That's a good word for it. I've been in the position as far as this recording only maybe 7 or 8 months now. Being officially, thank you so much, thank you. Being officially an actual pen tester. The way I got here was I knew I wanted to be in cybersecurity. And at the time I was working at helpdesk with a completely different company. While I was there, and I knew, I was like, all right, I'm glad that I'm good with helpdesk, but that's not where I want to be. I want to be able to do more. I have this urge to kind of learn more about specifically, hacking and doing and programming and doing stuff like that. So at that point, I studied and went and got a CEH, which is a certificate, the Certified Ethical Hacker Certificate.
Gotcha.
And the reason why I went for that is because when I was searching for jobs in cybersecurity or InfoSec, I saw that certificate come up a lot. So my brain said, well, if I get that certificate, at least people will start responding back to me, even though I may not have the experience, but if I have the certificate, then it would show I would have the knowledge.
Yep.
And people did respond back. I did not get a lot of the jobs that I was interviewed for because of the lack of experience. But luckily for me, a friend of mine was working at the company that I'm with now, and he said, "Hey, we have a vulnerability analyst position open. Would you be interested in doing that?" And I said, "Well, it's not what I'm going for, but being able, if my job is going to be looking up vulnerabilities and learning about them, let me interview for it. Yeah. So I interviewed for it. Luckily, they liked me, like my attitude. They like, what I had to say about things because, I've been studying on this stuff. And luckily, I got that position. From there,
hold on real quick. Just because, I had so many people with just same story. Like, I'm stuck in help desk and I need to figure out a way to, break through this unicorn. So you said that you went from help desk, that you had been there for a while. You started studying for your CEH. That got you some eyeballs. People started contacting you.
Absolutely.
And then you went into a vulnerability analyst role?
Yes, it was basically, being, I was a vulnerability analyst. Yeah.
All right. Can you just talk about that a little bit? Like what that looked like on a day-to-day?
Sure. For that specific position, the team that I was on, our job basically were to, in a way, kind of oversee the different data centers that we worked with. And what happens is we would run, there are certain scans that we would run on a regular basis. We would see the results. We'd pick out, we would look at the highest, we were using a program, the program is called Nessus.
Oh yeah, Nessus, yeah,
which is a vulnerability scan tool. So that made life a little easier. So we would scan those on a weekly basis, and we would look at the vulnerabilities that they have, because they needed to fix the they had a specific time period to be able to fix certain vulnerabilities, because they're like, you got to take care of this,
that's the
otherwise
SLA.
Yeah, so you got to take care of this, within this amount of time, otherwise you get marked. Yeah, so our job, we're basically kind of, somebody said, what did he refer to us as? Like the watchdogs.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So we're always doing that. Part of our jobs is to actually to go out and read about the new vulnerabilities that come out, and when we find out, like, oh wait, there's this new vulnerability with this CVE number, because a lot of vulnerabilities, when they come out publicly, they would have a CVE number. Then if we see something, we're like, oh wait, we have this program in our network. Let's check to see.
Let's reference it.
Yeah. So not only reference it, we take that CVE, go to Nessus, and scan our network for that CVE. Is that thing going to are we vulnerable to this thing? So literally, like, we were basically kind of like the guardians of our galaxy in a way.
I was so excited. I got my red hat mind on right now. So what I'm thinking is, that sounds just like a whole lot of recon to me. It sounds like
it is.
Yeah,
it is. But we don't actually do any like, we're not using stuff like Nmap or mass scan or anything. We're strictly using Nessus to do the scanning, and then research on the vulnerabilities, and then of course basically following up with the with said data centers about their vulnerabilities. Sometimes they would say, oh, this is a false positive, and then at that point it's up to them to prove it. So we're like, all right, cool, prove it to us. So they basically have to give us kind of almost like a proof of concept that it's a non-issue. And when they do that, we do our own research to see if that is true or not.
Man, so this is like with you starting off, it sounds to me like that's a lot of experience. When you couple that with the CEH, and I didn't want to stop you. I just got excited about it. I want to make sure everybody. I see you got kind of excited too. I love your beard. I'm so mad I shaved mine down.
Thanks. No, man, that looks cool, man. I like it.
Yeah. So all right. So we went to the vulnerability analyst role. Then what's next?
Well, at that point, while I was at that position, that was basically the day job. But me knowing that I really wanted to be in pen testing, and also one of the things I did was I was very forward with them when I did the interview, when they took me for this position. I was like, I have no problem taking this position. I'm sure I will learn a lot from it. But to tell the truth, like, my eye is at pen testing. If I was like, my ultimate goal is the pen testing. I don't know when I'm going to get there, but that's where I want to go. and they were completely fine with it. They're like, that's fine. Luckily, I had, some amazing mentors in that position, and my supervisors. They're like, we want this to be a position for you to learn and to grow and to get
It's the
out of being an
foundation.
analyst.
Yeah,
Yeah,
grow.
exactly. So it was a great place to do that. And I was there actually to replace the analyst who was going to pen testing.
Okay, yeah, proof of concept right there.
Yeah, exactly. So at that point, I was like, oh, okay, cool. So but of course, I got to meet him, and we're friends. We're still friends. We're now pen testing together in pen testing.
Hey.
But basically, what happened at that point is, once I understood what I was doing there, as far as my position goes, and I felt comfortable with my routine, because you had to have a routine of how you're going to do certain things. I started doing stuff on my own, like doing my own capture the flag exercises and stuff like that,
Okay.
to kind of stay in the loop. I even went to I even found out that the pen testing team, who's now my boss, he did certain challenges. He would create challenges to give to the team to kind of like, hey, try to solve this.
Oh, wow. So he was essentially making his own challenges for you guys to go in there and figure it out. That is awesome.
So he would make like these small challenges for the pen testing team. So he was doing it for the pen testing team. I was with the vulnerability team. So I had, since, I was friends with some of them, of course, I went and introduced myself, became friends with everybody. So when I found that this was going on, I was like, hey, can somebody ask them if it would be cool for me to try it? I want to try some of these challenges. And they asked him, and he was like, yeah, sure. So they would send me the challenges, and I would work on them and solve them. Like, I would start solving it, even though I'm not on the team. And that kind of caught his eye. It's like, who's this dude? And how is he solving these things? But he's not a pen tester. But that's because of like all the stuff that I was doing on the side. So basically, about maybe a year or so later, the manager, basically the operations manager of the team, of the pen testing team, who was my friend who got me the interview in the first place, was leaving. So when we all heard that, my supervisor at the time, when I was there, the analyst, came up to me and was like, didn't you want to be in pen testing?
Yeah.
What do you think? Because at that point I started managing like the vulnerability team, because our surprise our supervisor moved to pen testing. So they needed somebody to manage the vulnerability team. And at that point, I was there for maybe like 5 or 6 months. So I was there.
Dude,
so they're like,
that's not a lot of time. When you said 5 or 6, I was like, I'm waiting for years. 5 or 6 months. Like you're hitting the ground running.
Actually, hold on. What was it? I think it may have been about a year. I may have miscalculated that. I think it's been, it was definitely about a year or so. And then when my supervisor moved to pen testing, then they needed to fill in the management role. I was like, literally, I went in kicking and screaming, because I'm like, I do not want to be a manager. They're like, dude, you know everything. You know the team. The team knows you. It's better than bringing somebody from outside. We even like interviewed people, and they would bring me into the interviews to see the people that we're interviewing. And after interview, and after each interview, they're like, what do you think? I was like, dang it. It's like, fine, I'll do it. So I became the manager for our vulnerability team. And then after that, it was about like 6 or 8 months when the managing the pen testing position
reached out to you. Yeah.
So when I heard that, then with the blessing of my supervisor, we promoted one of our mid analysts to take my position, and I applied for that, and they took me in. So
Wow.
I went into pen testing managing the team. Well, kind of managing the operations, because our boss, he's super cool, but of course, being in that position, there's meetings almost every day, not just one, sometimes even multiple, so we can get accounts, make sure we have the right information, make sure they filled out the form correctly, like a lot of the logistical stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my introduction to the pin testing, specifically by going in, doing all the administrative things.
So can you talk on that a little bit more? So you said forums, and I actually, my only experience outside of me messing around at the house is school. So I didn't realize when it came to pen testing, it's a lot of paperwork involved. It's not all behind the computers. So when you say forums and things like that, can you just give us a little bit more detail of what you can say?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there are two sides to the paperwork. The one side from our end, when somebody sends us an email or contacts us like, hey, we need a pen test, we for this specific contract, there's a specific form that the client has to fill out, which gives us information about, what kind of environment is it? Is this a production environment? Is this a testing environment? Do we need accounts? Do we need job codes? Do we like all the little specific things that we would need to be able to successfully test? One of the main things is accounts. Can we log in with our government accounts, or are you going to create specific accounts for us? If you're going to create accounts, what information do you need from us? Do you need the testers' names? Do you need emails? Do you need,
so this is like basically like, this is just setup, like everything that we need to get ready and rocking. Okay,
exactly. Cool. So we would send that information to them, and so I have to keep track of who I sent it to and when, because we need to get that information back on a timely manner so that we could add them to the calendar, because we can't just willy-nilly put people in there, because there's so many, because the government is huge, and the department that we work for, there are different aspects to it. So everything is by calendar. And so we have a calendar, and they have certain time frames that they need things done in. So I had to be kind of like, you have to be on your game to make sure everything happens on time.
So you have a scope. You can't just say, all right, look, they want us to do a pen test, and you just decide to just do it right now. Like, I'm assuming there's a time frame where it's scheduled, because so you don't mess up, and if it is in production, but you also don't want to, go outside of your scope and touch things that, you're not supposed to have your hands in, right?
Yeah. And that's actually one of the questions in the form is, what is the scope? How far are we supposed to go or not go? What do we have permission to touch or not touch, as far as when we get in there? So there's all these little intricate information that they have to fill out. And then after they fill that out, we schedule a phone call with everybody from the client side, and that usually myself and my supervisor, to speak with them, to go over the form, to make sure that everything in there is correct before we even touch a keyboard.
Yeah. With that in mind, so you say you're meeting with, these people that you've been communicating with. So when you do an engagement, like, who are the main, like, do you tell everybody? Because I'm assuming, like, if everybody knows that a pen test is going on, they might, make sure that they're on their P's and Q's when it comes to their security. Are you just talking to like key individuals within the organization?
Yeah, no, we're not talking to everybody. We're only talking to basically the owners, who because mainly if there's a system in the government is basically, if there is a particular area or a particular, let's say, server that belongs to this department, there's a chain of command of 3 or 4 top people that have to answer to certain things. So they're usually the ones that request the pen testing and check the results and whatnot. So we only speak with them. What they tell their teams is their business. Sometimes they tell their teams there is a pen test. Sometimes they don't. That's on them. Our job is to talk with basically the top people that are requesting the test to make sure we have all the information we need. Sometimes they would bring in, their senior IT person into the loop when we're having these discussions. So that way, at least, basically the IT manager knows that something's coming.
So now I got a good question for you. Well, I hope this is a good question. So how do the internal IT teams feel about you guys or gals pen testing their environment? Do they look at you as a threat, in terms of these guys are going to come in here and mess our stuff up? Or is it more of a, I'm glad you guys are here so we can test our systems and see if they're actually put in place correctly?
It depends on who you ask, honestly. because there are some people that because first of all, it's mandatory. Every 6 months, every one of these systems needs to get tested to be up to code. So there are some teams that relish that are really proud that they got something, they fixed it, and then they're like, all right, let's see if we fixed it right. Some teams absolutely hate it, but our job is to do the best job that we can. If there's a vulnerability there, we're gonna tell you.
Like, I'm pretty sure you are. He said, I know what I'm doing.
I know. I was like, and we keep trying. Like, even my boss keeps telling them, they're like, we are not here to make you feel bad. We are not here to, berate you. We're not here to say you're not doing your job. We are here to help you. We're trying to show you, hey, this thing you need to try to fix this thing. Otherwise, if somebody else finds out about it with worse intentions, this could be a bigger problem. So we try to explain that to people, but there are some people that just don't like it because we always find stuff on their systems, and so
that's a I'm glad that you say you always find something. So is there a situation where you walked in and like, is there a such thing as I don't have any vulnerabilities, I'm 100% just immune to risk? Is that even something that can be considered?
There are, depending on the limitations that we have, there are some tests that we may come out and not find something, but that's due to the restriction that, or due to the scope that they give. They're like, hey, you're only allowed to touch just this one box. They're like, okay. So we work just on that one box, and that one box could be good for something. But if I'm an attacker, most likely I'm not just going to look at that one box. I'm like, all right, if there's this one box, then we know there's another box that's similar to this. Let me just change the IP address to this, or blah, blah, blah. But we can't do that because we, as ethical, as ethical pen testers, they said, we just want you to look at this one. Like, okay, we'll just look at that one.
Do you relay that information to them, especially if you get a scope where it's like, I can only use X, Y, and Z tools, I can only do this, and you it comes back and they look like they're compliant, they're passing colors, but in real life, let's be honest, they don't have a checklist. They're throwing everything at you.
But we try to, like, our best. That's why when after they fill out the form, we have these phone conversations before we do the test to kind of clarify things. Because sometimes we would see stuff on the form, we're like, I don't know if that's a good idea. So that's why when we have these phone conversations, we try to change their minds a little bit. Like, well, instead of doing this, can we do this instead? Can we do this instead? Can you help us do this? So because there's only so much you can learn from what they've typed in the form. But being able to speak with them and get that, also in a way that I see it in a way kind of a more of a social engineering thing, because by speaking with them, almost like 9 out of 10 times I'm able to extract more information that we need out of them just by talking, by them saying something that would trigger me asking something else that they would not have thought about putting in the form. That's why these phone conversations after the form are very important. So to me, I think once we start calling them, I see it personally as a pen test. I'm like, this is my first contact with the client.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see what information can I get out of there that would help us make this pen test better.
Yeah. Do y'all hear that? Do y'all hear that? Look, the weakest link is not, you can have all these tools and gadgets, but sometimes you just talk too much.
Mm-hmm.
The human element.
Absolutely. Yeah. The human element is definitely the weakest link. And I was blown away. I think, was it earlier this year or last year? I think end of last year, I learned that there is a conference called Layer 8, which is all about social engineering. It is a conference about social engineering.
I think I would be kind of nervous to go.
Exactly.
You can't talk to anybody, right?
I know. I'm like, well, what would I say? I'd have to create a whole other persona and story just to be able to get it. But I was floored because I know usually like at places like DEF CON and Black Hat and whatnot, there is a section for social engineering, and I know that that is a part of pen testing. There is that section, and there are people that really thrive in it. I'm not one of those people, but to find out that there's a whole conference that's been going on for years just on the topic of social engineering, it just blew my mind.
With that in mind, can we talk about some of the different areas because you said you do the web apps. So what are some of the different areas that people can hear about when it comes to pen testing?
A lot of times people, they just hear pen testing or hacking and it's all kind of lumped in together. But there are definitely different aspects to it. The position that I'm in now, as I mentioned, is web applications. So a lot of the tests are websites. So we would get websites that we try to break. I would break into. Then you mentioned red teaming, which is an area that I find really cool. Hopefully one day I'll be good enough to become a red teamer at some point. But yeah, so there's red teaming, which is a bit more aggressive, more they use the word offensive security. So there's that. There's of course, like I think social engineering kind of can fall into either, because it's basically just the human contact.
Yeah.
And that could be done. Of course, there's physical pen testing, which are when people get hired to literally try to break into a building, like physically break into it.
Yeah, I hear a lot about. Well, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and that sounds like it could be pretty intense.
That sounds me.
Come on, Ash, you got it, Ash. You can do it.
Man, no, I am super uncomfortable with the whole trying to breaking an entry type of thing. It's like that doesn't sound like something I would want to. No, I'm not. that is not my cup of tea, not at all. But like I've heard horror stories of these like I call them like cyber heists.
I like that.
Yeah, people just basically, it's like an Ocean's 11 type of thing. But what I enjoyed about that aspect of it is just the how people prepare for it. Like I like that part of it where they're all this different research and all this stuff. I was like, yeah, all this is cool. I'd rather break into it digitally. I don't want to be there in person.
What's funny is when I explain what my goal is to do, even right now, I guess to some extent, like I break it down into those kind of terms. Like, you ever heard of somebody break into a house? I just kind of do the same thing just digitally. It's the same. It's the equivalent. So that is super cool. Now you got me super excited again. We've been excited. So
yeah.
Like, can you tell us about some of the cooler pen tests that you've been on, or just some that you were like, man, this was challenging, but you really enjoyed it?
Oh man. Well, luckily, I have been enjoying a lot of the tests that I've been on, just for the sheer fact that I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I get to just freaking try to hack into this thing. So that in itself is very enjoyable. One of the cool things, of course, the rush is when you actually find something. That's really super cool. And I've been at. It's definitely a slow burn to because a lot of times you log into, once you get into this position, and I had this expectation too. I was like, oh man, I'm going to find like at least one vulnerability per test. I'm just going to, it's going to be great. Not the case. Not at all. Not at all. Nope. I think like today I found possibly maybe my second or third vulnerability ever since I started. And I've been in this for like almost eight months now.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a long time.
It is a long time. And a lot of, this is something that I did not know going in. Like after when I couldn't find something within like my first month, I was like, holy crap. Do I just suck at this? Like, what's going on? And a lot of my friends who are of course like other pen testers, they're like, no man, welcome to pen testing. Like when you first start, yeah, like everyone thinks that you gotta go in with glowing keyboards and just find all these vulnerabilities. But they're like, no, sometimes you don't, but you keep trying and you keep learning different things. And literally today I did learn something new, because in this test that we were on for this week, I found the vulnerabilities that I always end up finding for some reason are called information disclosures, which basically means that the system would accidentally give you information that could be useful, but it's not supposed to. Be it like from an error. Like if I do something and I get an error that says, oh no, sorry, that this error, this command is not going to work because the file that's located right here does not accept blah blah blah. And I was like,
a little bit too much information.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So those kinds of vulnerabilities are called information disclosures. They are considered kind of like on the low side of things, but it's still some information that a general person should not see, or an attacker should not see. So I found one of the tests that I was on. I was looking through some of the like source code, like in the login screen, and I found IP addresses that were in the source code. Wow. And I was like, wait a minute. I looked at it. I was like, these aren't commented out. So I read more into the HTML code, and it turned out that they just simply, had the IP addresses were there. They put the font color the same color as the background, so that way when you're on the site, you don't see it.
It looks like it's not there. Wow.
Like it's not there.
That's so lazy.
So with my mouse, I just went to the area where the IPs should be, and I just highlighted, and there's the IPs. So for me, that was an information disclosure. So when we were talking about it in our team meeting, one of our senior hackers shot me a message. He's like, hey, this actually, you can, he tried something. He's like, with the information that you found, this can actually be escalated, and you can create a cross-site scripting where you could have it pop something back up at you. I was like, wait. How?
Yeah. That's my question was, because you say it's information disclosure, it's low level, but you can build on that. And what are some
exactly?
So okay, you said cross-site scripting. What else could you maneuver if you had that little piece of information?
Well, with that piece of information, having IP addresses, then you can start enumerating those IP addresses. You can start attacking those IP addresses. But I didn't do any of that because I was like, I don't know if these are in scope. I don't know who these IP addresses go to. I'm just going to say, we found these IP addresses. We should not be seeing these. But he was able to escalate it. And then he's like, yeah, you should do that. And I actually had to contact him and another one of our senior testers. And I was like, all right, I'm trying to do it, but I can't seem to get it. Can somebody show me how exactly? And he did. He created a little video to show me how it's done. And then he's like, yeah, so this can definitely be written as an XSS. I was like, no. I'm not going to write it as an XSS unless I can actually, XSS is short for cross-site scripting. Sorry, I keep going.
I love it. Let's do it. That's how you talk. Let's do it.
Yeah. So I told him, I was like, no, I'm glad to see that it's that way. But if I'm going to write it up as that, which is much higher than just information
Info.
disclosure,
Yep.
then I want to be able to do it. Otherwise, one of you guys can take it, because I was like, it's not about, ego or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But if I can't execute it, and we know it's a problem, but one of you senior people can do it, you guys take it, because the important thing is for them to know that this is dangerous.
I got you.
But I'm not gonna say it's an XSS without me being able to do it. So after he showed me how it is, I actually, brought the site back up and tried a few things until I actually made it happen. I was like, okay, now that I made it happen, I could tell them what I did to make it happen. Otherwise, I would not have been able to do that.
Yeah.
So that's one of the cool things I like about working in the team, where I would not have even thought that me finding this little information could be escalated to something like an XSS. I was like, holy crap, I didn't even see that.
Yeah.
But because they have so much more experience than I am and have done this, as soon as they saw, like, oh yeah, if you do, just do it like clickety clack, boom, there you go. XSS.
Man, I gotta real quick ask you. I feel like I'm in love with where you work at. It sounds like everybody since you got there have just been like so helpful in terms of your growth and like opening you up to new opportunities and learning things. Like that is cool.
It's really cool. Like I have to say, I feel really, really very lucky. The company that we're with, it's called Iron Vine Security. And they've been very, very good, very helpful, very supportive of us kind of, learning and growing momentum. And the team, almost all the teams that I've worked with, like the vulnerability team was really cool. I like to call them my hacker team. My hacker team is really cool. And luckily, also, I think what has helped is when I was in the vulnerability team, I took the time to go and introduce myself and be friends with the people in like I know most of the people in pen testing, but not all of them.
Hold on, real quick. Hold on. Can you say that again? Because I keep trying to stress this to people. So you went out of your way to go and meet people that were in that area just to introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Introduce myself, become friends with them. Ask them for advice, because at that time I was still when I was still learning how to do learning about pen testing, because at that time I just had the CEH but no actual real world experience. Mm-hmm. And I would go to them. I'm like, hey, what's a good safe space for me to learn? What where can I go? What can I download? What should I use? And they're very helpful. Like people in this is one thing I really like about people in this field, is that they get, just like you, we get very excited about finding people that are, that are in our similar positions, and we want more people. We're like, yes, here, let me show you this, let me show you this. So that helped a lot by me being able to go and speak with them, and they would recommend certain capture the flag events or virtual machines that I should download and try. I would
name some of those, like if you remember them, just so people, if they're interested, like they can go and check that out also.
Oh man, yeah, absolutely. I anticipated this. I wrote down some stuff here. One, and I'll send you links to them too. One really, really, really cool site that has really helped me. One is called Over the Wire. Over the Wire.
I've heard about. I've never been there.
Over the Wire, basically that website, they have different, basically they call them war games. They have different basically each one is like a challenge. Think of them as challenges. And each challenge has, different levels and, so on and so forth. The cool thing about Over the Wire is when I was getting into pen testing, one of the things that was super frustrating to me is whenever you ask somebody, I want to learn how to hack, they say, yeah, just go hack. I'm like, that doesn't help me. That doesn't help me. So I got really super frustrated with that. And so one time, I just went to Twitter because first thing that I did was I went to a website called VulnHub, which stands for Vulnerability Hub. And I would look for specifically the virtual machines or the VMs that are marked easy. I was like, easy or beginner, and I would download those, and I would try to do it, and I would get absolutely nowhere. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? I thought this was supposed to be easy. This is not easy. And what I do is I would go find a write-up on that particular vulnerability, and I would do the steps, like step by step from the write-up to try to solve it.
And this is after you already attempted. You didn't go straight to the write-up and then go through the steps. You attempted it at least first.
I attempted it first, but then I wouldn't be able to get anywhere. And then so I'm like, okay, let me read a write-up. And I would read a write-up and would follow those steps to get through it. And at that time, I would start actually taking notes on the stuff that I did. And then I would download another VM. And I would run into the same situation. Still can't do it. I'm like, what the hell? And I would look at another write-up and start doing. So by doing that, I started finding certain patterns. There are certain steps that you do in the very beginning. And then from there, it kind of expands.
You got your process down.
Yeah, a little bit. And then after that, I noticed that then I started looking up this different write-ups on the same VM. And I started noticing people doing it differently. Like every person is solving this differently. And that got me both excited and frustrated at the same time. So I went to Twitter and I was like, what the hell? Are there no actual easy beginner VMs for people to do hacking? And a famous hacker on Twitter, it goes by the name of Tinkersec, which I heard on a podcast. I was like, oh shit, I know this guy's legit, So he's like, go to Over the Wire and do Bandit. And that's how I heard of Over the Wire. So I went to Over the Wire. See, it comes full circle.
I lied. I've done Bandit. I'll work through those. Go for it though.
Exactly. So I went to Bandit, and as soon as I did like the very first one, and it's teaching you some Linux commands. Mm-hmm. So the first thing you got to do is type ls, and then you see the solution.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. And then I go to the next one. It gets like a little like they teach you something else. And then I was like, this is what I'm talking about. This is helpful. So I started doing a lot of those Bandit stuff. I do have to admit there are some that were so bizarre and so weird. I had to read a write-up, and once I read the write-up, I'm like, yeah, there's no way I would have figured that out.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I've got like you get to like level 13 or 14, and I was like, all right, Master Chief Google.
Absolutely. So it just got crazy from there. But that kind of got me started with Over the Wire. Right now, I'm actually doing this thing called the site that I go to now is called tryhackme.com. Yes. I love tryhackme. I went out of my way, and I became a subscriber, so it's just like $10 a month.
$10 a month, yep.
But it's totally worth it, because not having to set up having to set up
attack box. You don't have to set up your own VM.
Exactly. It was brilliant, and I could do it from anywhere, like any of my computers. Like I could be downstairs here on my desktop, I could do it. If I'm upstairs on my laptop, I could do it. If I'm on a Windows machine, if I'm on a Linux machine, doesn't matter. You just go to your browser and do your thing. And so I went there, and I was like, all right, if I'm going to do this, I want to do it properly. So I went in and I enrolled in the beginner's path. So that way I was like, all right, so this is going to take me like from it, every teaches you different fundamentals, and I'm almost done now. I'm at like 92%. Okay. So I'm almost done with that path. I think I have one more room in this shell section, and then I think the last section, I think it's like 4 CTFs that you do.
Test the knowledge.
Yeah, exactly. So I really like the fact, and I think once I'm done with that path, I'm probably going to enroll in the offensive security one.
It's good.
It's good. I'm really excited about that one. Yeah.
Man, so like just to tell people a little bit more about Try Hack Me, it's cool. Like he said, you can start from the beginner and it'll advance through different levels. The best, at least to me, and like let me know what you thought about this. I love that they have instructions and they go in depth about the tools. So it's not just the commands. They actually tell you, they do tell you the commands, but they get you familiar with the tools. And when you get to that CTF at the end of those boxes, then you bring everything together and really get to, demonstrate your abilities. So
no, it really is. And I like that they, because one of the issues that I had with the VMs early on when I started was I didn't know where I'm supposed to go. What is it that I'm looking for? I had no idea. But with Try Hack Me, with every section that you're in, they specifically ask you to find something like, hey, what is the what does the flag in this section say?
Yeah.
And you have to try to figure out how do you get to that section to find the flag, or how many files are actually in this area. So you have to go there and figure out, how do you count files? How do you find out what is the hidden? So I like the fact that they actually give you specific, I guess, targets to go for. They kind of guide you like, all right, I need you to find this thing for me, or find that thing for me, which I think is very helpful.
Yeah, man. So with you doing that, and then obviously you've been in a role for quite some time. I think that it's awesome, like your progression from from the help desk to get you familiar with the computers to now you're doing vulnerabilities, checking out the CVEs, and even with Try Hack Me, that works a lot because you can look up CVEs to get inside of boxes and things like that.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
Then outside of your CEH, did you go back and get any other certificates along the way?
I have not yet, but I actually, in a couple of weeks, I'm about to take a course from SANS, the GPYC, the GAIAC Python course.
Oh boy.
I am so excited. You have no idea. I love Python. I love coding in Python. So when I found that they had a course that's specifically for automating, basically automating information security using Python, I was sold. It's like, done. I am so there. So luckily, I was fortunate enough to be able to sign up for that. And that's going to start, I think, on the 19th of this month. So in a couple of weeks or so.
So is that when the training starts? So that's when you're going to be taking the test?
No, that's when the training starts.
Okay. Because I'm gonna follow up with you. I'm saying, hey, look, man. How's it going?
Please do. No, but I'm so excited about this because it's not only will it help me become a tool maker or a better tool maker, but it will help me to be able to actually modify the tools that we already use if I need to modify them to make them better, to make them do something specific or whatnot. So it gives me that extra push. Mm-hmm. And I also found that a lot of companies do value the fact that if somebody has the ability to create tools, then that in a way that would make them a bit more valuable, because that means they will not, or the job that they will be doing or whatever it is that they're doing is not going to rely on them or the company having to get a license for a specific tool.
Yeah, you're saving them money.
Saving them money, and you being able to create something custom for yourself that it will do exactly what you need it to do is very helpful. And I find a lot of joy in doing that. And just to preference, you don't have to be a programmer to be a hacker.
I was going to ask you that. Do you need to know how to work Linux, and do you know all these different commands and languages? Do you need that?
Well, you definitely, it's advisable that you would know how to use Linux commands, because if you notice, a lot of the hacking tools are part of either Kali or Parrot. Both those distros are Linux based. So a lot of the tools are Linux based. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know Linux in the very beginning either, but things like over the wire, taking notes when I'm doing these VMs, all that stuff really definitely helped, because a lot of times I would get stuck. I was like, oh, how do you do this in Linux, or what's the command for this? And as soon as I try it and it works, put it down in my notes. All right, this is gonna do this. So whenever I need it, I just go look back at it. And after a while, because there is a certain repetition, after a while, you're going to find yourself just automatically remembering, oh,
I tell people it's like playing a video game. It's like, which are, like, I like Street Fighter. So it's like me knowing how to do a Duken or different things like that. After a while, you don't need to look at your fingers. It just happens, baby. It is.
I know. It's like Sub-Zero or Scorpion. Like, just get over here. Get over here.
Exactly. I'm going to know how to internet. Get over here.
Exactly. So I came into it not knowing a lot of Linux, barely anything. So just the repetition of doing the VMs and doing stuff like that really helps build it up. So knowing Linux is definitely helpful, because a lot of these tools are part of like the Linux ecosystem. I know that there is, I think FireEye put out the Commando W VM, which is supposed to be basically like hacking tools, but for Windows. So I haven't messed with that honestly yet. They call it a VM, but I don't think it's a VM. I tried to install it as a VM, but it wouldn't work. I was like, well, it doesn't matter. I have Parrot anyway. That's what I use anyway. I was just curious about it.
Yeah.
But I didn't waste too much time on it. But knowing Linux commands, or at least the basics of Linux commands, is helpful. As far as programming, like Python or stuff like that, it's helpful to have, because I think it just gives you that extra push. But a lot of the times with all these tools, they come with instructions on how to use the tools. Mm-hmm. So if you know how to use the tool, or how to use multiple tools together, then you'll be able to do what you need to do. But knowing how to knowing how to program, I think it's helpful in general to you, and it'll even help you understand what the tools are doing a little better, because if something's not working, you can. And I found it to be helpful to me personally as well, because I started, like you in the beginning of the podcast, you were saying, you were trying to give back to the community. And I'm trying to do that as well, because a lot of these tools, a lot of these things are free for anybody to use. So I'm trying to do the same thing. So I've started creating little tools that I use myself for my own purpose. And I was like, you know what? Let me put it out. I don't know if this will be helpful to anybody, but I just put it up on my GitHub account.
I was about to say you have a GitHub. Hey, can you shout it out or tell people how to get there?
Sure. Well, the easiest thing, all my links and everything, I have a small site called ashnoor.me, M-E. And over there, I have links to the blogs that I write. I have links to the GitHub, to the projects that I've been working on. Like one of the ones that I worked on recently was called, one of them I called Hacker Helper, because I found that when I'm doing all these different CTFs, I have like a text file that has, the commands that I always run, like the nmap scan, the hydra scan, the dirbuster, the blah, blah, blah. So I just have an empty template that has, just all these like commands. Yeah, so it's a cheat sheet, but then I found that every time I'm doing a CTF, I would have to go into that cheat sheet and manually put in the IP address of the VM that I'm going to be attacking. So every time I'm doing a different VM, I got to do that. So that takes like a few minutes. So I was like, you know what? Why don't I write a little Python script that I just give it the IP address and it'll just fill it into the right area.
I need that. I need
it's
that.
It's up on the GitHub. It's up on the GitHub. So I wrote that, just to help me. And basically what it does is it does that, and then it just spits out a text file, and I can just copy and paste. I don't have to sit and, so I just type in the IP address once, and it just fills it into all that stuff and gives me a text file.
That is
I'm like,
so
perfect.
Cool. Helping the hackers.
Helping hacker helper. That's why I call it the hacker helper. So I would do like small things like that. Like it's not going to change the world or anything, but it just made my life a little easier. So I figured, I was like, well, somebody else can take, and since it is on GitHub, when you download it, if there's another command that you use, you could just modify the code to fit your needs, and you could be able to do that, or hopefully make it better in the future.
Yeah, man. Hey, let's make it an open source project. Help out. Everybody give back. Everybody give back.
That would be awesome. That's why I'm so excited about this course that I'll be taking, because I'm hoping that by the end of it, I'll be able to make tools that are more helpful and be able to put that out there, or even make these tools a bit better for in the future. So that's why I'm just like jazzed about this class.
I can tell you. I mean, I've been seeing so many teeth in all day.
I know. It's just so excited. I'm such a geek.
Dude, that's a good feeling. But you know what? You need to be a geek about the stuff that you're passionate about, man. That's why.
Absolutely.
That's why we're clicking. That's why you got, dude. that is awesome. So
thank you.
I know we're coming to the end. So I like to ask this question. So, what would you tell somebody that's just now starting off that, they're saying, because I get a lot of people that say they're either in IT, they're stuck at that help desk and they can't figure out how to get in, or they might be like myself, I was in sales and marketing, and they're like, man, I want to do this, but I don't know how to do it. Like, what kind of advice would you give them if somebody was just starting off?
Well, I would first, I would say, like, if you really want to do it, then definitely start it as a hobby on the side, like that. Like, don't let you not being in that position, or not being near that position, stop you from actually doing it. Because there are people out there, with my boss included, where he's like, I don't care if you have a certificate or not. Do you know how to do the job?
I love that.
So there are people like that. So, go to Over the Wire, do some stuff there, bring down VulnHub, and there is no shame in reading the write-ups, because when I first started, because if you don't know how to do something, how are you gonna learn?
Yeah.
One of the main things that you're taught is that you will go out and do research. You are going to go read up how to do things. So why not just do it from the beginning? A lot of people, they're like, oh well, if I read it, if I go look for a write-up, then that means I don't know. I'm like, yes,
that's the reason you're looking for a write-up.
Exactly. And then start doing your own write-ups too, because and I wish I knew this from the very beginning. Look at different write-ups of the same like challenge that you're working on, because there are a lot of, because sometimes I would read a write-up and I'm like, I don't understand what the heck this guy's talking about. What are they doing? Then I would read another write-up, but that person is doing it in a completely different way. And I was like, oh, wait, okay, I see what you're doing there. After doing that for a while, it came to a point where I would read a write-up for a specific part of a challenge. And then after I read the write-up, I'm like, no, there's an easier way. I know there's an easier way. And I would, search for that, and then I would find something. So after a while, you'll start seeing certain patterns. Take notes. Notes are essential, in my opinion, because that's how you're gonna help yourself. I like to do it both. Like when I'm doing challenges and stuff like that, I tend to do it handwritten. Then once I solve the challenge, I go to my computer and I digitize the notes, or at least the correct steps that I took that helped me solve.
Is there a specific tool that you use? And the reason, because when I got into like Linux, I started using Cherry Tree.
I've tried so many different ones. Right now, I've just got introduced to Notion.
I never even heard of it.
Oh, dude.
Let's geek out. Let's geek out.
Let's geek out. I recently, my my sister-in-law just mentioned it because she knows like I'm a big I like to organize things and to, have my tasks and I have my lists and blah blah blah. And she's like, oh, there's this really cool thing called Notion. Look it up. So when I looked at it, and it's a web tool. It's massive. There's so many things you can do with it. And I was like, what can I do with this thing? As I was searching on like how to use Notion, there's this whole other concept that started popping up called the second brain. And I'm like, what is that? What's the second brain? And it's a knowledge management system that there's this insane. Dude, I started a second brain and then I started a second brain for my second brain. Like I have like two separate things, one for my personal life and one for my learning.
Oh, and wow.
It's basically a way to streamline like when you find resources, when you find stuff like that, to put them all in a certain location. So that way, when you're working on projects, you're able to go to the resource that you're like, you know what, I read about this, last month. Let me go check out my resource.
So is this an app also, or is it just like on
it online? No, it's an app. It's a web browser. It's made like on the web, but they do have an app for it on the phone. So I've started streamlining stuff into Notion, into my Notion account. Some people use Evernote for the same process.
Evernote is good.
Yeah, I used to use Evernote back in the day. So when I saw this, I was like, well, let me try this out.
You see that? He just flexed on everybody. Hey, back in the day, we're on Notion now. I got my...
No, because I loved Evernote. It was so cool. And actually, the guy that came up with the second brain concept, he mainly used Evernote. And then he started when Notion became available to the public, and they have like free accounts now. So that's how I got into it. I was like, oh wait, I can create an account for free. If you have a Google account, you can just sign in with your Google account and you're done. You're like signed in within like seconds. But so that's what I'm trying to use now. Like I'm trying to get it set up for when I start taking this course.
Yeah.
But beforehand, it was just any normal, after I have like the handwritten stuff, just any note taking device that allows me to have tabs. So for example, like Notepad++ or Sublime, anything that allows me to have tabs, because a lot of times when I'm going through these things, if I'm doing it digitally, I write down everything that I'm doing, like what worked, what didn't work, what blah blah blah. I just kind of like throw it out there, because sometimes like I get another idea, because I'm very visual. So when I see something, I was like, wait, what if I try this instead of this? So that sheet of paper is just scrambled with a lot of stuff. So that's why I always have another tab, so that way whatever worked, I would just copy and paste that into what worked.
Smart. I want everybody to hear this. I'm like a lifelong student. Like, that is amazing. Like, you always have to have something for you to be able to organize your thought process, because I can already tell, like, you're going through all these different things. Might not work, things might work, and if you make it that much easier for you, easy day.
Yeah, because at the end, what I want to do is, and I keep both, by the way. Like by the end of the challenges, I keep both notes. I just make sure that I mark one saying, this challenge one, scratch notes. And this is like the challenge one, the clean notes. So that way, when I run into something, I was like, oh, you know what? I think I ran into a challenge that I had to do. I would go to the clean notes because that'll just give me like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 done. And that way I could just find it fairly quickly. And then if I want to know why I did that, I can just go back to my notes to see, like, well, did I try this? Did I try that? Did I try that? So that's why I tend to kind of keep both, but I always like to have one that just gives me basically the bullet points.
This is important though, because I would assume on a pen test engagement, you would need to take these same kind of notes, right?
Yeah, you do. Everything that you do, I take notes on. And when I see that a vulnerability happened, the most important thing for it to be considered a vulnerability is if you can reproduce it. So if I do something and it works, I was like, okay, what did I do exactly? And I started doing it step by step, and you take, screenshots. Some even take video, like they would just record everything that they're doing. And that way that kind of shows the steps. Because at the end, we write a report with the vulnerability, what the vulnerability is, how it should be remediated, and the steps that I took to do it. And then, of course, having the screenshots or having the video kind of as proof, like, yep, it worked. Here's the proof that it worked. So yeah, so note taking is very important. And a lot of people do it differently. Some people use OneNote because you can just shift things around. Some people, use.
I think you just sold us when you told us about Notion. I'm on 100% use my Google account and get Notion.
Dude, it's awesome. It's so cool because one of the crazy things about it is that you can create tables or databases, and then you can link things up, which in the beginning I was like, I don't understand how is that helping me? Like to me that was the main thing. I was like, how is this going to make my life easier? Mm-hmm. Getting it set up is definitely can take a little bit time depending on how you want it set up. But once I understood how things kind of link, I was like, oh, okay. So I have my projects, database, and then I have my resource database. I can link those two up so that in my projects, I'm like, okay, I'm working on this project. What is the resource that I need for that? I just go to that tab and it opens up my resources, and I can choose it was this video, so that way I have everything in one location. So I'm looking at my projects. I'm like, this is my project. This is the due date. This is the resource that I can go to that can help me with more information.
Ash, don't give them too much. I got an idea right now. We'll talk about it after this. Yeah, it's gonna be fire though.
Sounds good.
But all right. So, so now I'm winging it. So
no, go for it.
What do you see in technology that has your interest right now, and then where do you see technology going in the future?
Oh man. Well, one thing that's really interesting me a lot recently, other than coding, is I'm really fascinated with the whole Starlink situation that Elon Musk has going on with the internet.
Man, I'm lost already. I've been in my cave. What is this?
Starlink is one of the latest. I don't know, but like entrepreneurial adventures from Elon Musk, where he's basically putting satellites in low orbit, so that way internet can be sent to rural areas through the satellites. Wow. So that way, if you're at a place where you can't get fiber optics or anything to that location, if you have a Starlink account and they have a satellite near or in that area, then you could be very remote and still have internet access. So he's about to
essentially make his own ISP. Like he's
already put up several of these satellites up there, and there are some people who are beta testing it, who have signed up to be beta testers to kind of give feedback, like, okay, it's working fine in this region, not working fine in this region. It's slow here. It's not slow.
Man, I have so many questions. So I used to work for a company that got acquired by Google. And
oh, wow.
That's what our technology was. We did fiber, but typically you got to dig trenches and, mess the streets up and get permits. What we did was we did point-to-point radios or satellites. And then we had a line of sight, then we could provide you service. So when you said that, I thought about it. You don't think about it if we from a big city, hey, who's got bad internet? But, I can definitely understand in the rural area. But what I was interested in, one of the things I had to do because I was in sales was I had to read through these companies' contracts because a lot of them would already be in negotiations with like a Cox or a Spectrum or a different provider. So I wouldn't be able to provide them service. So I was wondering what his approach would be to that. Like, if you say, I want to talk to these people in this area and they already have a provider in a 10-year contract, how do you veto that? How do you get across that?
That I don't know, because I think this is set up kind of more of a kind of like an individual basis thing.
House to house, gotcha.
Yeah, or more like person to satellite. so yeah, so it's that. So he's not reliant on, like Comcast or Warner Brothers or whatever to be in a specific area. He's just like, nope.
Oh, no. So no, not even that. So say like you said, person to person. So say I got a house and you got a house and we're like individually, like we're cool. Like I want your service, Elon. But what if that person that lives in a condo that's in that HOA, their HOA is under contract with the other provider? We getting way off topic. But anyway,
that I don't know, because that's not an area I'm expert in, because I haven't worked in sales, so that's a very interesting point. But that I don't know. I can't preach on that part.
Either way, no. But that's what you're in. Obviously, you done hit me with 2 bangers back to back. First, with the note taking process. Then you didn't hit me with the Starbright, bro. Like I'm
Starlight, Starbright. I love that. So Notion and Starlink, those have been like the 2 things that I've been reading. I've been using Notion, but reading about Starlink and whatnot, which is kind of cool, because that just expands, because it just makes me think. I'm like, well, if this actually works, then there are a lot of people who do not have access to technology would be able to have that.
Yeah,
which I think would really, really be a game changer in so many different ways. Yeah. So I know he's going to get a lot of pushback. He's already getting some pushback from astronomers, mainly, because they're saying these satellites are if there's so many of them up there, they're going to obscure or basically they're going to obscure or not make their views of the stars clearer, so they wouldn't be able to make
like the telescopes and stuff.
Yeah, the telescopes won't be able to see through them and stuff like that, and the reflections and whatnot. So there's been a lot of interesting controversy around it.
Yeah, that one topic, it brought up a lot of different. It's like a can of worms. What is it? This is the info disclosure. This is that one IP address that just opened up a whole lot.
Exactly. It's insane. Like, it's so weird because you and I as technologists, we hear about this, we're like, oh dude, this is so cool. An astronomer would be like, this is crap. This is gonna screw up my job. So it's very interesting how like the different people from different different what's the word I'm looking for? I keep forgetting. I can't think of the word. But like different ways of thinking, or different jobs,
different perspectives, and
different perspectives. Exactly. Different industries would see it in a completely different way. Yeah.
No, man. Well, I think that's fire. Obviously, like you said, I'm in the tech. I'm like, hey, do it right now so we can figure this thing out. Like,
oh, absolutely.
Dude, there are so many just cool things. Like, what's so funny? One of the things that pushed me into tech was like when I was in marketing, understanding how they do like specialized ads depending on the individual person, and how we could actually basically scrape or do recon on an individual, so that we can maximize the ad spend and get the maximum ROI off of it. And a lot of that was based off of technology and a lot of these same tools you would use as, a pen tester or somebody's doing social engineering. Yeah. So,
especially all that OS, you're doing OS sent on the
open source, essentially.
Open source. See, open source intelligence. Yeah.
There we go, my man. Yeah. So cool. All right. So we got 2 more questions. So this is another one.
Go for it.
What, if you were on my side and you were asking the questions, what's something that you wished I asked you that I didn't?
Oh man, that is awesome. That is a good question.
Yeah, that made you lean back a little bit. Yeah.
Oh yes, they really did. What is a question that Well, I gotta say, you've been a very thorough interviewer. What is a question that I honestly can't think of? Anything specific? Well, usually a lot of times in these infosec um, podcasts that I've listened to, a lot of times people ask like, what was the, if there was like a movie or a moment or something that would have gotten into it. That's the only thing I can think of. Surprisingly, there a lot of people, they usually say either war games or hackers. The crazy thing about me is when I first watched Hackers before I got into the infosec thing, I liked it as a movie. I didn't understand what the heck was going on because I was not into computers.
Right there.
I wasn't into computers. And war games I have never seen, but I want to because it's a classic. But I would have to say, what would have gotten me into hacking? Well, I really wish that somebody would have told me earlier on what hacking was, because I remember when I was taking when I was doing my CCNA back in the 90s, like when I was first trying to get into IT, CCNA was rapid. It was very, like, if you had CCNA, you were basically going to get a job.
Oh.
And because this was like in the late 90s, because that's when I permanently came to the US. And at that I had just graduated high school, so I was here. I was like 19 years old. I hadn't touched a computer before, so this was like all new to me.
Dude, you're spanking new.
I was spanking new. Like to the point when somebody was like, "Oh yeah, this computer has internet. This one doesn't." I'm like,
"What's the difference?"
No, I'm like, "What's a computer?" Not let alone what is the internet. I was like, "Is that a program?" And they're like, "It's basically a giant library." I'm like, "That sounds extremely boring."
Yeah.
Like, that's how they explained it to me. But during that time, I took a class in CCNA, and this is like every time when I come back to this point, I'm like, I wish somebody told me back then that what I was doing at that point was hacking, but I didn't know, because at the end of one of the classes, they were having us practice some of the commands that we were learning. So they had a couple of routers. So I practiced on mine, and I was able to, it worked. I got what I need to do done. But then I was like, can I hack into, not hack, but I was like, can I connect to that router that's supposed to be for the other team? And I go in, and I'm able to get in there, and the other team, like, they keep trying. They're not able to get in there because I'm in there. Like, I block them. And they would call the teacher. And when the teacher comes, I would log out. And he would try it, and it would work. And then he would leave. I would log back in.
Well, who is this guy? Like, man.
Yeah, no, but here's the thing. Like, nobody knew what was going on. All they knew was that when they try it, it doesn't work. When the teacher tries it, it works. And at that point, I was like, this is interesting. So when the whole class left, I saw the teacher go and sit in front of the router. And as I was leaving, I was like, why are you still here? He's like, then, the team was having trouble logging into the router. I'm just want to check, the configuration and see if everything's okay. I was like, oh, no. The router is fine. It was me. He was like, what do you mean it was you? I was like, I would log in. I wanted to see if I would be able to log in. And it seemed like I got in there quicker. But once I was there, they weren't able to get in. He's like, that was you? I'm like, yeah, that was me doing that. He's like, oh, you're one of those, huh? And we just kind of like laughed it off, just like jokingly.
Yeah.
But I wish if at that point he told me, what you're doing here is, hacking or pen testing or whatever the terminology was for that era. I think I would have devoted more of my energy towards learning that specifically.
Yeah.
But I only came across the topic later on in my career after, I've been like in help desk and doing, almost everything from moving computers to building computers to help desk, like during that progression, if during that whole time I knew that I had this, interest in specifically in infosec, I just wish somebody would have told me that back when I was 18 or 19.
Yeah.
Because I think that would have helped. So that would have been the one thing I wish somebody would have told me. So hopefully everybody who's listening to your podcast right now, I'm the one telling you, if you're listening to this podcast, you are into this thing, and just go for it. Go for it.
No, man, I love that. That was like a nice little bow on the end of the present. You know what I mean? Like you blessed us with so much fire today.
Thank you. Oh, I appreciate it.
Can you tell first off, I'm gonna put all the links and information for you to get in contact with Ash in the notes, so you can click on it, and it's not going to be it's not malware. Just click on it. You're good to go. but can you tell everybody how to get in contact with you?
Absolutely. Of course, the way you found me was on LinkedIn. So if you're on LinkedIn, just, look for Ash Noor. If you go to my website, which is ashnoor.me, M-E, over there, I have links to my my two blogs. The one called Rhino Fish, which is my white hat hacker name. That one I write about, infosec, and I think coming up in July, I'm actually going to do a post about my first month as a pen tester, and I already have stuff up there now. I have a second blog called the Pi Noob, which I write about all the little Python programs that I write and the stuff that I'm learning and the issues that I run into. And of course, it has my GitHub, and even all these posts, they would have links to if there is a GitHub account or a GitHub project related to what I'm writing, then there's usually a link to that. But if you just go to ashnoor.me, all my links are up there, and my information is up there too if you want to contact me.
Well, man, Ash, it's been great talking to you. Everybody, go ahead and follow my man. Go to his website, find him on LinkedIn, and hey, make sure that you go and get some hacker helper.
Yes.
Make sure you show my boy some love. And they all started from taking notes, right? You took the notes and they worked for you.
I took some notes, and exactly. And I just ended up digitizing my notes to make my CTFs easier. So yeah, definitely keep your notes and go get it. It's free. It's not malware, I promise. I'm not that good yet.
Oh, man. Hey, well, everybody, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Hope you enjoyed the interview. Once again, Ash, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. And this is Antoine Matthews. Holler back.